we are here today to talk about Transform Copilot. I'm very excited to show you that you can save time with this tool and all of the different things that you will get by using Transform Copilot. So here is our agenda for today. We're going to start by talking about the business challenges, some of the things that I mentioned in the session earlier today, and how we utilize Transform Copilot to assist you in overcoming those business challenges. I'm going to talk about each different piece of the Transform Copilot ingestion engine and how we utilize those within the business process to maximize your ability to focus on what is most important to you. I am going to talk very briefly about Mila, but please also attend the session immediately following this one at 2:15, where we will do a live demo of Mila. That's going to be very exciting. And then we'll just do a quick wrap up, and I will pass things on to a lovely panel that we will have with CDM Smith, who's one of our clients and has been using Transform Copilot and been getting a lot of value out of it. So that is our plan for today. All right, so first, to start, my name is Maya Suzuki-Skull. I am one of the product managers here at TechnoMile. I work on the contract suite, and Transform Copilot is one of my main products. So let's do a quick overview. So these are sort of the key points that we bring up every time we talk about the TechnoMile releases. This is our current focus on any new feature or product or capability that we're bringing to you. So right now we're working on a lot of streamlining of the pre-award analysis part of your business process so that you can spend more time focused on value-added activities instead of spending time reading large solicitation documents or contract documents, mods, amendments, parsing through all of that information and data. We're also looking to obviously speed up not just pre-award, but also your award intake. So getting all of the information that is in your contract document into your CLM system in as quick and simple a fashion as possible with automated identification and ingestion through Transform Copilot, and then simplifying your post-award risk and compliance management. So ensuring that you have visibility on how risky the contracts that you are managing are and any mods that come out related to that, and then also ensuring that you have all of your clauses and compliance related information in the system so that you are able to track it effectively and efficiently. So, what does Transform Copilot do? Well, it takes your large contract document and it breaks it down into a couple of different elements. First, you've got your form data, so your SF33, your SF26. You can also have contracts without forms, for example, commercial contracts or non-standard contracts, and it's trying to break down that information and pull it into your CLM fields. You have the POP identification. POPs are often not clearly documented in contract documents, so we try to intuit with the AUI, or intuit with the AI, what the period of performance is based off of delivery dates, period of performance information that may be located in multiple places in the document, and then put it all together to sort of give you an outline of the POPs of the contract. And then CLINs and SLINs, pulling out your financials, and CLINs and SLINs, the types of CLINs that you have, any description or supplies and service summaries that are in the document, pulling that out so that you can ingest it into the CRM without having to do manual entry. Clauses, of course, the most important thing for compliance, knowing exactly what clauses are in your document and the version of the clause that is in your document, because as we all know, the different versions can be quite different. So making sure that you have the right one, that you're tracking that appropriately is very important. And then finally, the summaries. The summaries is basically several synopses of your contract document that will help you accelerate reviews and analyses of the contract itself. So how does Transform Copilot work? Well, it's an LLM. Some of you, well, most of you should be familiar with that term, but it is very different from ChatGPT. It's pre-trained, so it's designed to think like a contract manager. It's also designed to explicitly look at information in the document itself, so you're not pulling information off of goodness knows who, where, goodness knows where on the internet. It's actually coming from the document itself. And what it does is it takes the information in the document, anything that's structured, it's going to try to pull out so that you can automatically ingest it into your CLM. Anything that's unstructured, it's going to try to summarize for you so you can get the most value out of the document without having to actually read each individual page. So to recap, it's going to significantly decrease the amount of time that it takes you to do your manual data entry, and it's going to give you these synopses that you can then share with all of your stakeholders in as efficient a manner as possible. Okay, so let's talk about some of the business challenges of form data. Government contracting forms are there's quite a few of them. They all have different formats. They all label things just a little bit differently. In some forms, it's called a requisition number. Some forms you have a proposal or requisition numbers. You've got delivery order numbers. You've got solicitation numbers, contract numbers, all different kinds of information in the form itself that is written in a very different way. So here's a couple of examples of forms that you might receive as part of your contract document. And trying to figure out where the data on this form goes into your CLM is a whole process in and of itself. What field does issue by go into? I do not know. So the advantage to using Transform Copilot takes the guesswork out of that. You also have to manually copy this data from the form to a field in your CLM. So a lot of activity that you need to do just for one page of information. However, with Transform Copilot, we're pre-organizing the data for you. So what we've done is you've got the form on the left-hand side, so you can see where we're getting the data from. And on the right-hand side, we have the fields that it's going into. And this interface will slightly change based off of the form that you're working with, because some forms have different information. And then it automatically puts that form data directly into the CLM in the correct location. So no matter what form you're ingesting, whether it's an SF33 or an SF26 or a DD1155, your data is always in the same place and your reporting is consistent across the board. All right, automating CLIN/SLIN ingestion. So when we are manually entering CLIN/SLINs into a CLM system, there's a lot of data points we have to enter. The CLINs and the SLINs need to be entered separately so that you can ensure that your SLINs roll up to the appropriate CLIN. As a user, you have to choose where your obligated value goes. Does this go in cost? Does this go in fee? Does this go in price? It's all, of course, dependent on the actual type of CLIN. And you have to create your periods first before you create the CLINs because of the relationship between those two. With Transform Copilot, instead of having to manually enter all of that information, it's going to identify it and put it in the correct place for you, and all you have to do is validate. Makes it very simple, automatically associate the obligated value with the correct value type, cost, fee, or price, automatically associated with the correct period, and also the CLINs and SLINs are integrated into a single screen. So this is what that looks like. So you've got highly manual. We have Salesforce on the top and Microsoft Dynamics on the bottom to highly streamline. And we find that this can save up to 50 seconds per CLIN or SLIN. And 50 seconds per CLIN or SLIN on a document that has 50, that's a lot of time saved. So how does this help me and my team? Cost savings is the biggest one. We estimate approximately 70% of cost savings just in the CLIN/SLIN identification process and the automated entry that you receive there. In addition to that, it decreases your data entry fatigue. I don't know about you guys, but when I'm staring at a computer screen all day, entering boring data points, I get very tired. This also leads to lots of mistakes. By decreasing your data entry fatigue, limiting the amount of data you have to enter, and only relying on you for the validation part of the workflow, your day is much simpler and you are more focused on the activities that are important to your organization. And then, of course, having that time allows you to ensure that your energy is spent wherever is most important to you, those relationship building activities with your client, or focusing on fixing problems within the delivery of the contract. And it also helps ensure that your organization is compliant and prepared. So you don't have to worry about not having all of your financial data tracked for when you do final closeout and your reconciliation at the end of the contract. It is there, you are compliant, and you are prepared without having to really do much in the way of manual data entry. Talking about clauses. So, Transform Copilot and clauses. The TechnoMile clause library contains the clauses from acquisition.gov, and this is utilized and leveraged with Transform Copilot in order to automatically identify the clauses within your contract document. Now, I will say that Transform Copilot is predominantly focused at this time on acquisition.gov federal clauses. However, we will look into expanding that in the future. Additionally, it captures not only the correct revision date, which is essential to your compliance, but also captures if the full text of the clause is located in your contract document, that is captured and then inserted into your CLM without you needing to do anything at all. Additionally, it allows users to see all of the clauses in a single ordered screen, and you can actually reorder the clauses so that they're ordered in the way in which your organization would like to see them. So you can order it by the document, you can reorder them however you'd like in the screen, and then once it gets to the CLM, they will be displayed in the order that you chose. And then finally, it identifies applicable clauses from 52212-5, that long, lovely clause that has a bajillion check marks. It automatically identifies which ones are applicable and sticks them into the Transform Copilot interface for you to validate and brings them into the CLM. Transform Copilot also saves time with clause matching. So no longer do you have to log in to your CLM to scroll through a long list of clauses and select out the ones that are located in your document. It automatically identifies them, and it will match them to your library so that when they're brought into the system, they are already connected, and you have consistency across all of your contracts. The matching capability for Transform Copilot specifically utilizes number and revision date. We find that this is the most effective matching technique. This is something that we've sort of worked on quite a bit over the last year because clause matching can be very challenging with all of the different versions, alternates, deviations, and so we use number and revision date first. If we find an exact match for that, no problem, we're done. But if we do not, then we go on to use title and alternate as well. This not only ensures that you're getting a correct match, but it also ensures that the matching process happens quite quickly. So even though I have a document that, say, has 200, 300 clauses, then I'm matching against the clause library, you're not sitting for 15 minutes while the document processes it. It happens very efficiently because of this matching process we have. I'd also like to mention for our Salesforce customers, we have a capability that allows you to take contract-specific clauses and convert them over to your clause library, which is an extremely useful capability when you have deviations. And Transform Copilot does an excellent job at identifying deviations inside your contract document, comparing them to the clause library, and then determining whether or not the deviation is in the library right now. In the case of deviations, at this time, the TechnoMile clause library doesn't contain them, so you'll need to add them manually to your library, but this is the most efficient and effective way to do that. So once you've identified that there's a deviation in the document and compare it to the library to find that it has not yet been added, such as in this example here, you'll then bring it into your CLM as a contract-specific clause and then convert it to the library, at which point it will be available for all future contracts as well. So next time you run a contract that has that deviation, it will automatically match and you won't have to worry about it. Let's talk about contract summaries. So the contract summary is a little widget that appears either on the corner of your screen if you're in Salesforce, or it appears on the right-hand column if you are in Microsoft. It contains 6 tabs, and each tab has a different type of data contained in it. They're all summary level data. The summary tab specifically is going to give you a brief synopsis of the full contract document. So it's looking at everything that's in the contract document and trying to summarize what's in there for you to share out to your executive team. The ingested form data is just a recap of what was identified in the form if you need it. The POPs is going to give you a table of the POPs that were identified in the document, as well as a summary of the periods of performance. So for example, it might say something like, this contract is 1 year with five option periods. The CLIN/SLIN section is going to give you a summary of the types of CLINs and SLINs inside the contract document, as well as an estimated total contract value, which you can use to validate against the CLINs and SLINs that you actually ingested using Transform Copilot. And then the Other Changes tab here is going to give you a series of brief 2-line summaries of key contract data. For example, a summarization of the SOW, deliverables, points of contact, key personnel, labor categories, wage determinations, and more. The Clauses tab is going to have 2 different tables on it. The first is a summary of the key clauses that are found in the document based off of the key clauses your organization has personally marked in your clause library. So all of our customers, they have the ability to identify which clauses in the library are most important to them, and those are called key clauses, and it's going to search the document specifically for those key clauses, but it's not just going to look for the latest version, which is what's probably marked in your system. It's going to look for any version, any alternate, or any deviation that is of that type of clause. The second table is going to be any other clauses that it identifies in the document, and this particular table does a good job at identifying Section H clauses, which are not standard, won't be in acquisition.gov, so a lot of those don't necessarily get pulled into the main clause ingestion screen. So if you have documents that are, for example, state and local or commercial, it attempts to identify the clauses in the document based off of a completely different set of criteria from what we're using to pull clauses on the main wizard screen. And then finally, risk. Risk is a brief analysis of whether the document clearly identifies scope, deliverables, and timelines, and then it gives you an analysis on whether or not it feels that information has been clearly outlined in the document, and if it has not, it will give you additional information on why it thinks that. So how do I get the most out of these contract summaries? Number 1 is validate. So I can use the data in the contract summary to validate what I've actually ingested into the system using Transform Copilot. I also can utilize this to review additional information in the document that is important and relevant to me as a contract manager. So these summaries are focused on what you need to know most, what your contracts team needs to know most. And so without having to lift a finger, I have a synopsis to share out to everybody. And then finally, the sharing. Not only am I sharing with my team, but I'm also sharing with the people who are reviewing and approving the contract and all of the related stakeholders. And so again, I don't have to produce executive summaries or synopses. I'm saving time in doing that by using the automated AI summary, and then I'm able to share that with everybody within the organization. Or even better, they can just log into the CLM, see the contract record, and it's right there at the top of the page. Mods. Mods are great fun, aren't they? They are definitely a volume game. We have found from our customers that modifications have a tendency to be the biggest challenge when it comes to managing the contract, because you get a lot of them. They are complicated, they're confusing, they don't have a consistent format, but you need to make sure that you're analyzing those mods and communicating the changes those mods have on the contract out to your stakeholders in as timely a manner as possible. So you have all of these documents that you have to read and go through, but you have to do it quickly. There's often minimal time available when you're managing your contracts to enter in mod data, to do summaries of them, and to share them out with other people. So it really complicates your day-to-day. Also, of course, mods have to be tracked for compliance, so it is an essential part of your contract workflow. Transform Copilot allows you to automatically import the SF30 forms, but in addition to that, it provides a synopsis of the changes that are included in the mod. So no more hunting through the mod document trying to figure out what changed, what happened. It gives you a synopsis up front, similar to the summary, which I will show you in a moment, which sort of outlines exactly what that mod does to the contract. It also makes it easier to validate contract changes that you are making when you're going through your mod review and approval processes. So I want to talk a little bit about the difference between modification summary and contract summary. When you're looking at the actual summary, the tabs are identical, but the information contained in each tab is going to be a little bit different. So on the modification summary, your summary tab, instead of having a synopsis of the whole document, it's going to be focused on giving you a synopsis of the changes that the mod makes to the contract. On the POP, it's going to look at any changes to the POPs. It's looking for extensions. It's looking for exercised POPs, any new POPs that have been added. On CLINs and SLINs, same thing. It's looking for changes to value and funding on any of the CLINs and SLINs, and then it's going to give you a table with the net change. So you get the before, the after, and the net change as a result of the modification. For clauses, it's recording any new, changed, or deleted clauses in the modification so that you can then make those adjustments in your CLM. Other changes is going to explicitly look for administrative related changes that are contained in the mod. So instead of seeing a summary of each key data point, you're going to see a has changes or no changes on the other changes tab. And then risk is looking to see if any changes have been made to the risk profile of the contract based off of the mod. So have there been changes to deliverables? Has the timeline changed? Has the scope changed at all? Is it well defined within this new modification, and any other concerns we may have? Mila. So we're super excited to roll out Mila. Mila's a digital assistant that allows you to communicate with it as if it's a contract manager using natural conversation. What that means, it's like speaking to a contract manager who has the same industry knowledge you have, but they're specifically constrained to the documents that you're telling it to converse with you about. So it's not pulling information from who knows where, but it is giving you relevant information from your documents. It also allows you to rapidly analyze contract documents and produce artifacts. So if you have a solicitation or a contract document and you want to produce, say, a labor category table, you can do that using Mila. Also upcoming for 2026, we have a new user interface for Transform Copilot. This interface we will actually be demoing in the next session when we go through Transform Copilot for pre-award. And it's going to be ported over to the existing Transform Copilot capability as well. There's several screens that I have here, so I'm just going to flip through them very quickly. Some of the advantages to the new interface is the new CLIN and SLIN cards. They're much easier to identify. They have a light purple background against the white main background, so you can easily see which information is related to CLIN 1 or this specific clause, and it doesn't get all jumbled when you have 100 records that you're looking at once. And then we have the new Transform Copilot summary interface along with the Mila chat button. So Mila will be accessible from the contract summaries and the mod summaries so that you can converse with Mila about any document that you've run through Transform Copilot. Additionally, for next year, things that we're going to be working on is expanding into commercial modifications. So as of right now, we can only handle SF30s. We're going to expand that to hopefully any kind of modification document, commercial or contract or government federal documents that are not SF30s, purchase orders, whatever we can sort of do with the documentation that we have. So we'll be looking to expand that as quickly as possible next year and rolling it out and getting feedback. And then we're going to, of course, continue to improve on the accuracy of the Transform Copilot tool, as well as the Mila tool as well. We're working on improving data extraction and commercial contract ingestion, solicitation analysis. We have a lot more planned than just that, but I just wanted to give you a brief look into where we're going. So just to wrap up, Using Transform Copilot is going to save you time. It's going to allow you to brief your stakeholders on new contracts and modifications quickly and efficiently, and it's going to help you all make more money. Who doesn't love that? Also, I'd like to point out this is in front of all of you, so please feel free to take that home. This is just a recap of the value of Transform Copilot as a tool. So now I'm going to hand things off to our panel. We have CDM Smith, and Kevin is going to be running the Transform Copilot panel.
All right, please sit. Hello, everyone. We're going to have, I think, a fun conversation now. I'm Kevin Brancato. I lead product strategy here at TechnoMile. I am joined by Christy Mallett, who is contract operations management at CDM Smith, and Christy McMaster is our enterprise customer success manager. You all have adopted Transform Copilot. We just want to have an engaging discussion about this. And really, thank you very much for going in front of a very large audience, thankfully. So I don't know if you want to take it away.
Perfect. Thank you, Kevin, and thank you, Christy, again for the time. So to start, why don't we tell everybody a little bit about CDM Smith and its business?
Right. So CDM Smith is a global, privately owned engineering construction firm. We've been around since about 1947. We had an early focus on water treatment and environmental infrastructure. We provide integrated services across several major infrastructure, environmental, and energy sectors. We work on projects from start to finish, from consulting and design through engineering, construction, and operations.
Amazing. All right. Now that we understand a little bit more about CDM Smith's business and history, with that context in mind, let's talk about the business challenges you were trying to solve when you first reached out to TechnoMile.
We wanted to improve how we managed our contract process. It worked, but it relied on multiple systems and manual processes, which made it harder to be efficient and consistent. Our goal was to find a central solution to help manage the entire process. We wanted to enhance visibility, lower administrative burden, support compliance, improve our efficiency, and we wanted better reporting and actionable insights. We wanted to centralize our data and introduce automation and have better insights, support a smarter and faster decision making.
So you mentioned it worked, but I think a lot of folks in the audience, they have systems that work but don't work, right?
Yeah.
And so can you put more color to that? That might be helpful to everyone here.
Yeah, we used a lot of Excel spreadsheets before, to be honest, and it made it difficult because everybody had their own section of stuff, and we didn't have everything in one location. So when we had to do several years ago, we had to do a data call to look for FAR clauses, specific FAR clauses. So we had to reach out to each project person. We had to reach out to the contract staff and try to collect the information. It took us weeks to find the information. And now, as we're not fully integrated yet, but as we're putting contracts in, we can see, you can go to the clause library, you click on the clause you're looking for, and it shows you every single contract that has that clause in it.
Mm-hmm. It's a good example.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah. Well, thanks for sharing those challenges. With those in mind, can you share a little bit with everyone about how did you approach when you were evaluating for a new solution?
Sure. Our approach was thorough and focused on aligning technology with our business needs and compliance requirements. We prioritized the solutions that offered centralized data management and automation capabilities, and we wanted to streamline the manual processes. It was also important for us to maintain compliance with federal regulations. The right fit needed to be scalable, and it was really important for us for it to be user-friendly. Ultimately, we wanted a partner that would provide a reliable platform and that would collaborate with us to improve our contract management and help us adapt to evolving business needs.
Yeah, I think you had a lot of different stakeholders put in place, and so it seemed like you part of the process appeared to be internal change management as you're coming aboard with TechnoMile. So yeah. Are there some aspects you could share with the audience about best practices for handling like internally being able to sort of understand approaching TechnoMile and how you might have to address people inside the company who are either hesitant or just don't know enough, or like, are there any of those areas about how like people could approach such a seismic shift like you had in your company?
Yeah, I mean, education was the biggest piece. I mean, we have, CDM Smith is great. We have, people who have been there for, I'm hitting my 20 years, and that's not even the longest. We have people that have been there for 30-some years. So the processes have kind of evolved with that. So we just went to everyone and said, okay, this is what we're looking at. Let's look at the processes we're currently doing. How can we streamline these? How can we make them more efficient? And, how can we automate? And, it's just having that conversation. Yeah,
because I remember as you were coming on board, there were actually a lot of discussions that came back to the product team. Can we ensure that we're providing best practices to you to make sure that your processes, which some of what, as I mentioned in an earlier session, merge the pre-award and post-award, and some of the companies here are actually much more blocked. They're much more blocked, but yours sort of blurred, and it was difficult to try to ensure exactly who was getting what. So.
Well, speaking of those change management pieces, when it came to looking at TechnoMile's CLM solution, how did that align to the processes and the priorities and everything that you were trying to achieve?
Yeah, it aligned by delivering a centralized platform. It brought our contract data into one location, and it eliminated our need for multiple systems and multiple spreadsheets. And by centralizing the data, it helped us create a more consistent and reliable foundation for setting up to improve visibility and compliance as we ingested more of the contracts. At the same time, the platform is starting to automate some of the manual processes, or manual time-consuming processes that previously slowed us down. As we move forward, we expect to significantly reduce the administrative burden and minimize the number of errors, and to overall improve our efficiency. TechnoMile has worked really closely with us to make sure that the system aligns with our needs today, and it can scale to support us in the future.
Absolutely. Now, you've been up and running for a few months, so could you share what are some of the results you've now been able to see that you've been using the TechnoMile CLM solution?
Yeah, I mean, we've really been focused on building a strong foundation to improve our contract management. Because we didn't have a centralized database, we're having to manually enter our contracts, which is requiring a lot of careful attention to detail and additional time. Transform Copilot is really helping with that. From the data we've entered so far, it reduces our manual tasks, and it's improving the data reliability. As we continue to expand the contract repository, we're confident that the benefits are going to continue to grow and allow us to manage the contracts more efficiently and effectively in the future.
I think you mentioned your approach sort of took on the hard tasks first.
Yeah.
So what you seem to be doing was, CDM Smith has a very large number of IDIQ contracts and a very large number of task orders. And it sounds like you're going through all the IDIQs first.
Yes.
And to make sure that they're in place, and then want the system to do the work for you, which I think is the right approach.
Yeah.
So could you explain a little bit, like you seem to not have a centralized team doing that with Transform Copilot. You seem to have people all over the place and are managing pretty well at that.
Yeah, we've gotten reinforcements. We're trying to just get as many people as we can to really, and especially people that have a stake in this. We have different people who've come to us and said, hey, we think the system is going to be great. We're busy doing this right now, but we're going to have some time open up, and we want to help so that this is up and running so we can all use it. So just training them and getting everybody to kind of get the information in so we can get going with reports and use it to its fullest extent.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, I know you mentioned Transform Copilot. So speaking of AI-powered tools, how have they changed the way your team manages contracts, and have you seen any results from it?
So it's starting to automate our routine tasks, which is improving our accuracy and supporting more effective contract management. Since we started working with Transform Copilot, it's improved. It's not perfect yet, but it's, TechnoMile is constantly refining it based on our feedback. Kevin, you're always eager to hear our feedback, whether it's positive or constructive. And we've given a lot of both. So, but you collaborate with us to closely find solutions to make the product better. You're kind of like a kid in a candy store when we call you, which is it's kind of fun because you get excited about the problem and you want to know, like, give you the information and you'll find the solution and you're eager, and that's awesome. I always know when we come into a problem, like, Kevin's got us. The advancements have reduced our manual effort and it's increased our confidence in the contract data. It's had a positive impact on how our team manages our contracts day to day. And then we're excited to continue with the improvements and the role AI is going to play with enhancing our contract management in the future.
I'm excited too. Oh, go ahead.
So, yeah, a couple questions. So as we've engaged with you, you have some wicked complex contracts. Only because your business structure is very complex. You seem to have a number of contracts where you have internally and external partners. You've got joint ventures. You have all these different things. You're finding the system. We're finding. I think you agree. We're finding ways to be able to adapt to very complex situations, even when I think nobody predicted exactly how complex that would be.
Yeah. I mean, that's very true. I mean, it's, right now we're working through an issue with the joint ventures and how are we going to put these into the system and everything. But it's, it's all working out. It's just, sometimes it takes a minute, but we get there in the long run.
Yeah.
So.
Absolutely. Well, to wrap up, I'm sure everybody would love to hear from you. What advice do you have for those when they're looking for potential CLM solutions?
So much advice. So the biggest is, treat it as a business transformation initiative and not just a system implementation. You want to start with involving the right people from the beginning. If you don't have the right people, the people who are actually going to be using the system, providing their input from the very start, when you get several months in, you're going to find things are going to come up that you didn't really, that maybe the upper level management wouldn't have thought of. And then you may be too far down the road. You may have to backtrack or just forego what part of your needs. Clearly defining the requirements up front and staying focused throughout the project. I mean, yes, clearly defining them, but if you don't stay focused, it's going to go off the rails. It's going to be tempting to over customize, but you're not going to want to do that because, customize where you have to, but when the quarterly updates come out, if TechnoMile has made a change to something and you've customized it, it's going to take you longer to make those changes or to adapt those changes. Stick to what's essential and keep document management and tracking processes as simple as possible. Planning is everything. Well thought out and detailed test scripts are going to save you time and rework. The test scripts are probably not going to capture everything, but if they can capture a good, if you have somebody developing test scripts that has a lot of knowledge in what you're doing, you're going to save time. It's equally important to ensure that you're tracking issues throughout the process in a streamlined and detailed manner. It's going to avoid confusion and repeated roadblocks. One of the things that really helped us, and it took us a little while to get to this point, was when we would come across an issue, we would number it, we would make sure it was clearly defined, put links in, and take screenshots. If you can put in all the words you want, but if they can't recreate the problem, if they can't see what the issue is, they're not going to be able to find a solution. Clear and consistent communication, both internally and with TechnoMile, is important at every stage. Ensure your team and leadership are kept informed with regular updates, and don't move forward until each phase is really completed. It's nothing worse than getting you go to the next phase and you're like, well, wait a minute, what about this other, make sure everything is done. Finally, don't underestimate the importance of training. Ask for written documents to accompany live training sessions, because that ongoing reference material is going to make a difference in your adaptation and long-term success. And then if you take the time to plan well from the start and stay disciplined throughout the process, you're going to avoid unnecessary delays and you'll set yourself up for success.
Awesome. Thanks, Christy. Anything else you would add, Kevin, before we wrap up?
I don't know. So you've been, no, you and I have been talking for quite some time about the process and the adoption of the platform. Are there things that you really wish we had done earlier in the process, or some other, as you're engaging? So I think what I found when I've engaged with folks, we have a standardized process, but you don't know what you don't know almost until the end. So is there sort of like sage wisdom for somebody who's now gone live and really implementing?
Are you referring to like what we would have you all do, or?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think the biggest thing is just, encouraging people to have the right people in the right seats, because and having those conversations early, because when you have it, we try to keep things minimal at the beginning. It could be tempting, but you all need that information, and we need that information. So it really is super important.
Yeah, when we go up pretty hard trying to get as much information as possible. There's a reason for that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, follow that. Really, listen to what they're saying about, like, what you all are saying about, give us the information, because you can't do your job if we, don't give you all the information.
Okay.
So,
awesome.
All right. Any other points you'd like to make for the audience? All good?
No, not that I can think
of.
All
right. Well, I want to thank you, Christy. Really appreciate it. Big thank you for sharing your insights about CDM Smith, adoption of TechnoMile's contract suite, and Transform Copilot. And thank you, everyone, for attending this session. The sessions are being recorded and will be sent to all attendees later this month. And right now, we're going to take a break until about 2:15 p.m., where there's another breakout session, the supercharging pre-award analyses with AI, where we're actually going to demo the pre-award Transform Copilot. We're going to demo Mila in addition to the discussion. And so you'll learn more about that in the pre-award realm. Note that if you're planning to attend the agentic-fueled capture transforming execution with intelligent automation session, you want to head to the room next door after the break, and stick around for a few minutes if you have any questions about the presentation and discussion today. During the break, we invite you to enjoy the CX Lounge area to connect in person with members of the TechnoMile customer success team, professional services, and support teams, as well as our partners who are here exhibiting, including today's sponsors, RSM, Infotech Consulting, and Ardent. So get ready for another session at 2:15.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Great job.
You did a great job.